Hey y'all, welcome back to Mirror Expressions. It's another lovely day in the neighborhood. How are y'all doing? For real, just drop a mirror down in the chat if you're doing A1 so that I know you're fine. You know I'm good. And as always, if you have looked in the mirror and you're not feeling A-okay with what you see looking back, and make sure to take whatever avenues that you need to get back to a healthier you. All right, y'all. So today we are reviewing, American Horror Stories, season 2, episode 5. No, sorry, y'all, we're not in episode 5. We're episode 6, Facelift. I was about to do a whole nother review on that Bloody Mary. Anyway, y'all. So, opening scene, right? We see this older lady rising. Her name's Virginia, right? So she's kind of like the main character. She's rising for the morning, getting her day started. And in doing so, we see her, going through her routine. And when she goes to use the bathroom, she pees in a cup and uses the pee to clean her face with. Right. You see my face? Just nasty. Nasty. And I don't want to hear nothing about, well, it's claims that really does work, or pee is sterile, and I don't care. It's still nasty, just nasty. Even though, growing up, I did used to hear like an old wives' tale about using a baby urine to cure a rash. But still, that's just nasty. Just nasty. Because at the end of the day, it's still a waste product. So she's coming downstairs to go get some breakfast. And we see that her daughter is down there working at the table. She's studying. She's in law school. And so she's sitting there at her books. And she comes down. She kisses her daughter. And her daughter's like, "Ooh, Mom, are you using that pee again?" Basically, to clean your face. And so she lies. And she's like, "No, I'm not doing that anymore." And so we just kind of learned through their banter that Virginia is obsessed with looking younger, right? And so she's caught, meaning the mom, Virginia, she's caught looking at the neighbor across the street. His name is Bernie. And so Faye comes up and is just like, "I see you eyeing him pretty much." And she's like, "No, what are you talking about?" And so they have like this conversation, and we find out that Virginia is widowed, and that Bernie, although he's married, he and his wife are going through a divorce. So Faye is just like, "Well, go holler at him, go over there and say hey." And Virginia's like, "No, not just like this. I want it to be natural, like we just run into each other." So then Faye drops a little tea. It was just like, "Yeah, well, on Fridays, he always comes to this spot at this time." Right? And so Virginia's kind of like, okay, she's trying to act like she wasn't taking in all the information, but she really does, because guess where she was at that Friday? At this spot. So the place was some kind of like wine cellar or wine bar, right? So it's Friday, and we see Virginia at the wine bar, right? And so she's just there, and apparently she been there the whole time, baby. And Virginia is G'd up from head to toe. Do you hear me? She got the makeup on. She got their hair done. She dressed real nice. And so the people at the wine bar like, "Do you need some help? Because you've been here a minute, and you haven't bought anything, haven't tasted anything, And she's just like, "No, I'm fine. And so the whole time, she pulling out mirrors, keep looking at herself, make sure she's suited and booted. And so in walks Bernie, right? So they greet each other and they catch up, or do the fake catch up, because he's asking her like, "Well, how you doing? How you been since your husband passed?" And so then she asked him, well, how is Anita? I think that was his wife's name. Knowing she already knew that the two of them were on the out. So that's why I say fate catching up, right? So she's asking about Anita, and so he's just like, well, we're having a bad time, and we're just not, on good terms. And so as they're speaking, as Bernie and Virginia are speaking, up walks this other woman, right? And apparently you can tell that she's with Bernie, because she's like, hey, Fern. A cute little pet name. And so this chick's name is Cassie. So Bernie's like, well, Cassie, I want you to meet somebody. And Cassie comes over and she's like, I already know her. And so she tells Virginia her whole name. She's like, I'm Cassie, so-and-so. We went to school together and stayed in the same dorm. And so Virginia's like, oh, yeah, okay. So it's obvious that, like I said, that the two of them are item, Cassie and Bernie. So Bernie ends up stepping aside to go grab something or whatever. And so he leaves the two women talking. And so Cassie is just like, no, Virginia asks Cassie, what's your secret? Because Cassie is like gorgeous, right? And she looks younger looking than Virginia, even though they're both beautiful. I don't know what Virginia did was like, you gonna just grow old. That's just what it is. You still was pretty. So anyway, so she asks Cassie, well, what's your secret? And Cassie says, I'm tired and exercise, darling. And Virginia's like, bull crap, what is it? So Cassie says, I'll tell you as long as you leave Bernie alone. So Virginia gonna try to play dumb at first, like she didn't know what she was talking about. And she was like, look here now, I know you want my man. Leave him alone and I'll let you know. So Virginia agrees. And so Cassie pulls out this card and gives it to Virginia, right? So the next thing we see, Virginia sitting in his office and she's with the doctor. The doctor's name is Dr. Pearl. And so she's telling Dr. Pearl that she just feels so hideous and that she's here for the plastic surgery. And Dr. Pearl said, well, if that's how you feel, I can't help you. So Virginia basically started begging the lady for help. Like, no, I want to feel better about myself, but I'm just not there. And the lady, Dr. Pearl, she starts rattling off all the things that she's not. Like she says, I'm not a plastic surgeon. I'm not an artist. I'm not this. I'm not that. And then she says, but what I am, I'm a worshiper. I worship the human form. And so I'm like, where is she going with this, And so she goes on to tell her, so if you want my help, you have to believe you're worthy to be worshipped. So Virginia says, well, right now, I don't love myself, but one day I want to be there. And so Dr. Pearl was just like, at least you're honest, So she's like, okay, I like that you're being honest. I'm going to work with you. So she tells her to follow her. And so she got Virginia in this chair. And, Dr. Pearl is just kind of giving her the rundown about what she does. Well, in a kind of sort of roundabout way. Like, she's saying it, but she's not saying it, right? And so she asks Dr. Pearl, well, don't I get to choose what I look like? And homegirl said, that ain't how this works. She says, I'm just removing the graffiti, right? And so, in other words, kind of whatever's underlined is going to come out. She's, and I was like, okay. She ends up handing her this quote of how much her services are going to be, right? And so we see Virginia, she's back at the house and she's on the phone with like her business manager. She's telling him that she has to have this procedure done and how much it's going to cost. Well, her manager is like, look, you can't afford that. You're in debt. Your husband left you in debt. And you really about to lose the house you're living in. And she's like, well, I drive this kind of car. I can downgrade to a Mercedes. And And he's like, look, that still is not going to solve the problem. You're just in too much debt right now to be trying to have this procedure done, right? So later that night, we see her peeking in on her neighbor, Bernie, from across the street. And she sees that Cassie is there and they're getting it on. And it was just like, let me insert this right here, y'all. I put this in my note. For this to be such an affluent neighborhood, why could she hear everything from across the street? Like, why could she hear them banging into the walls or them moaning? And I'm like, you shouldn't even be able to hear that from your next door neighbor, let alone a neighbor from across the street. But anyway, I digress, y'all. So she peeking in on them, and it just so happens that Cassie looks up and catches her looking at them. And so she shuts the blind closed real quick. So the next day, Virginia's back at the doctor's office. She's back at Dr. Pearl's office. She's signing the release forms and she handing over a check, right? So Dr. Pearl just takes her hands and she tells her that she wants to work on her hands too. Like, she wants to do the whole process. Because Virginia's like, well, I thought you were just going to work on my face. And Dr. Pearl's like, no, I got to complete my vision, my picture. You know what I'm saying? And so she starts the process. They end up giving her some anesthesia and a little IV. And as she's kind of drifting in and out, about to be knocked the F out, she see all these people start gathering around her. And they're doing a little chant. And Dr. Pearl is one of the people, right? So that's it. As she closes her eyes and everything goes black, that's all we see from there. Next thing we know, we see her coming home later that night. Like, who does that after you just supposedly had all this surgery? So it's thundering outside. It's lightning. I mean, it's just raining cats and dogs. It's like storming, real form. Like one of them, let's shake the house kind of thunder rolling, So she comes in the middle of the night, wrapped up, her whole face wrapped. All you see is her eyes and a little slit for her mouth. And then her hands are all wrapped up, like she can't even open the door or hold nothing or anything. And so her daughter immediately runs downstairs because she's hearing all this bumping around. And she's like, Mom, is that you? And so, and then see, the daughter sees her. And she's just like, why did you get this done? You know what I'm saying? We're in debt. We about to lose the house. You didn't need to have this procedure. And so the whole time, they're just going back and forth. And then Virginia says or mentions something about the fact of her being her stepdaughter and not her real daughter, right? So what she say there for? So, of course, they set Faye off. And Faye is like, you know what? Well, you take care of yourself since I'm just your stepdaughter. And, of course, she leaves, right? So Virginia, she's like trying to get her pain medicine. At least the girl did leave the bottle open for her. And so she knocking over the bottle, trying to get a pill. And and so she couldn't pick them up, y'all. So this her counter, y'all. So she all like this, trying to eat a pill. And then, like I said, it's still storming out. So Virginia all of a sudden started hearing things and she gets spooked. She falling out the bed. She's hearing the people chanting. She's starting to have visions. She gets scared. She's screaming. She's crawling around on the floor. And then all of a sudden, Faye comes in to help her. And she's just like, I got you, Mom. I got you, right? So the next day, they're talking, Faye and Virginia, and Virginia asks Faye, like, well, why did you come back? Faye goes on about this story, like how she kind of rebelled when she was younger, but Virginia still accepted her, and she just kind of was just like, I may not understand it, but I'm going to support you, and I'm going to be here to help you, right? And so Virginia asked her, she's like, can I ask you something? What exactly have you had done? So, Faye asked Virginia that. Well, what exactly have you had done? Right? And so Virginia said, a facelift. And Faye says, well, that's kind of concerning. Are you sure your bandages are just so thick? And Virginia's like, this is because there's a lot of swelling. So it's the next day, and Virginia is back at the doctor's office, and excuse me. So she's telling Dr. Pearl that she feel like it's deeper than the skin. Whatever she had done is deeper than the skin. And Dr. Pearl said, I don't just work on the skin, I work on the whole you. And so she said that her recovery is coming along slow, but that it's on track. I'm thinking like, how, Sway? Like, how? How, Sway? How can it be slow but on track? Like, you know what I'm saying? I ain't get it. But anyway, Virginia was like, well, my daughter said blah, blah, blah. And she was just like, look here now. Your daughter, she ain't helping the situation. She's gonna hinder your healing, and that if you wanna go ahead and get better, you need to get away. And I want you to come on this retreat. It's gonna be other people there who've gone through the same things or are going through the same thing. Like, it's free for all my patients. It's like complimentary, and I want you to be there to get away from your daughter. And so Virginia, she agrees. And so she's back home. She's packing. And we see that Faye is telling her, don't leave, Mom. I don't trust this doctor. Something's going on. I looked her up, and this, that, and that, and the other don't align. It doesn't match up. Don't leave. Virginia's like, whatever, I'm leaving anyway. And so she goes off with this man that helps her. So they arrive at the retreat. And baby, why is she the only fool walking around there with all these bandages on her hands and her face, right? And so Dr. Pearl tells Virginia that she thinks it's time for the bandages to come off, but she wants to do it in front of all the other guests. And Virginia's like, why? She's all hesitant about it. But Dr. Pearl talks into it, and that she's going to be fine, and they're all going to encourage her, and blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, Faye done tracked the mom down. She done snuck in the van, the same van that took her mom to the secret location, right? So she done snuck in the back of the van. So she's walking up on the property trying to figure out, like, hey, where the hell my mom is? And this guy in black comes out of nowhere, and he covers her face with a cloth. And of course, it's some kind of medicine on there that knocks her out, right? And so that's all we see of her at the moment. It knocks her out, and then that. So it's later on that night, and Dr. Pearl is doing like a presentation in front of all the guests. She's just talking. I mean, it's a lot of guests. Like, they're outside or whatever. And she goes on to introduce Virginia as their special guest, right? So they bring Virginia up. And so she's telling everybody that it's time to remove the bandages. And some about the butterfly and the cocoon. And I was like, oh, goodness, Lord. So they bring her up like on this platform and sit her down. And they start clipping off her bandages. Right? Wait a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself. I forgot something. So before they do that, they bring her up or whatever. And so before they start, Dr. Pearl is like, we have some unpleasant business to attend to first. And they bring Faye out. She got two men holding her, one on each side. And they bring her out. And Dr. Pearl was like, she violated the rules and has to pay for it. And so Virginia, in all the confusion, does not even take up for Faye. Like, she don't know if they finna go kill Faye or what. All she know is that she's violated the rules and has to pay for it. And Virginia's like, well, she's only my stepdaughter. She's not my real daughter. I was like, oh, that woman, right? She's just ready to look youthful and don't care at who or what expense. So Dr. Pearl motions for them to take Faye away. And then she proceeds to go ahead and cut the bandages off. Y'all, when they showed that woman's face, oh my gosh. I was like, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. She looked like one of them troll dolls. I don't know if y'all remember the original trolls. They used to be about this little, had the little stringy hair. Oh my gosh. She did. She had a big old nose and little wrinkly skin. But they had made her look like a pig is what it was. She had the little snout and her hands were all big like hooves or whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, why they do that lady like that? So the people immediately started doing that chanting that they were doing when she was getting the procedure done, like everybody did. And they kind of find out they end up prepping her to look like a pig so that they could sacrifice her and they continue to look young, right? So Dr. Pearl lets her know that, hey, you're sacrificed. This is how we continue to look the way we look, and it's about a hunt. So we're gonna give you like a 2-minute head start. If you make it to the river, we're gonna let you go. If not, you're gonna be sacrificed. And so she's like, go. And Virginia, of course, is looking stunned at first, but she eventually takes off and she's running and they're chasing and she's running and then she falls and tumbles down and roll around and crawling through little stuff. I was like, oh my goodness. And then at one point she gets struck. They have like spears and arrows. So at one point she gets struck in her side. But she picked herself up and she kept running. And then she runs into Bernie. And so she's kind of like getting a look of relief like, oh, Bernie. But only to realize that Bernie is with the people. Like, I don't know how she didn't figure that out. Because that was my first thing when he popped up. Like, why would he be there at the blue? You know. So, at that point, she's caught. Everybody starts circling her. And they all take their spears and they start sticking into her till little mama just gone. She gone. They then bring Faye out. And they let her loose, and so she runs up to her mom. And she's all crying over her. Like, why did y'all do her like that? You didn't have to, mom. You know. And so Dr. Pearl is like, your real mom was one of us. So you are too. And Faye is like, what are you talking about? And Dr. Pearl's like, don't you remember? And so we see a flashback of Faye looking at this necklace and all this. So it's kind of clicking, you know, for her. And so Dr. Pearl is like, it's time for you to step out of your cocoon and emerge as a butterfly. And so that was the end of that scene. So we don't know which way Faye went. Like if she joined the group or not, right? And all we get is a fast forward to, you know, a fast forward. And we don't know how much fast forward, but it was fast forward. And we see Faye on the campus of her college at the law school, right? At the law university. And baby, she got a new look. She got them glasses. She got her new hair. And then she drops her books and she's picking them up. And we notice that she has a butterfly tattoo right there. And that just kind of leads you to assume that she has now emerged from her cocoon. Meaning she done joined the group. Yeah, that was the end. You know, it was cool. It was pretty, It was cool. That was cool. It was cool, yeah. I wouldn't say it's been my favorite, but that one was pretty cool. It was different. But it did kind of, I guess you could kind of guess what was going to happen next. You know what I'm saying? Like, it gave very much that. Like, I could kind of figure out what's going to happen down the road. But it was still a cool story. So anyways, that was that. Thanks for listening. please take a minute to like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed to my channel, period, please take a moment and hit that notification bell so that you will be a subscriber. And as always, until next time, I'll pray for you. You pray for me. And we will what? Bye, y'all.